It's that time of the year where Braber crop figs and also very early ripening figs like a Ronde de Bordeaux start ripening and coming into their own. What you need to know is what to look out for to make sure you get the perfect fig every single time. And that's what I want to show you today. So first off, I think figs are one of those fruit trees that you either love or you hate. There's very, very few people that are sitting in that middle ground of, I'm not quite sure. I love figs. I love drying them, making jams, eating them like I'm going to today, fresh off the tree at 100% perfect ripeness. One of the things you must know about fig trees is they have a very, very short shelf life. They also don't tend to ripen as well once they have been picked, like many other fruits you can buy in the grocery stores. And that's why if you see them in grocery stores, first of all, they're incredibly expensive. They have a very, very short shelf life, meaning they go off really quickly. And I'm not a fan of eating baskets of figs in one go or within a few days. I like to snack on them here and there, and that keeps the novelty of having a fig tree. So that aside, this is a beautiful black mission fig tree. As you can see, it's small, it's compact, it's growing a lot of figs with very small amount of real estate. And that is the idea of growing them in pots. I have 15 varieties of fig trees and they are scattered in pots around the garden. I have one fig tree in the ground, which is also a black mission. And the idea behind it is to grow variety. So instead of having 3 or 4 massive fig trees in the garden, I have smaller ones, but a lot of variety, colors, size, texture, taste, all of that is different. So you don't get a whole bunch of the same thing in one go. They staggered their harvest. Some are ripening now in December. Some will only ripen at the end of March. So it's a really good way to extend your harvest, not give up a huge amount of garden space, and get to enjoy everything that these varieties of figs have to offer. So enough about the talking, let's get into looking at what you need to be aware of when trying to pick perfectly ripe figs. So the nice thing about knowing your varieties, like a black mission fig, is that when the fig matures or starts to enter that maturing phase, they start taking on certain characteristics. And that's the first thing you need to look at to make sure you get the perfect fig, is to know what the final characteristics of a ripe fig of that variety looks like. Meaning, as we can see here, the figs start to change to a dark purple color, almost black, when they start maturing and coming into their own. But then you also need to understand the difference between Braber crop, which is your first crop, and not all fig varieties have Braber crops, and then also your main crop. In this instance, you can see if I move this leaf, look at the size of that beautiful massive fig. Now this is the Braber crop, and in this instance I know that a black mission has a much bigger sized fruit from its Braber crop than its main crop. So if we have a look at this purple one at the back over there, this one over here, and these are all much smaller figs. They will taste a lot sweeter. This one will be a slightly more bland, but you can see it is massive. So also understanding the difference in Braber and main crop will help you understand which flush is ripening at which stage. So number one is characteristics of the fig tree you are growing. If we look at something like a tiger fig, for example, that one is going to start off with beautiful stripes, and it is going to continue to just get bigger and bigger, and they will only ripen at the end of March. They are a very late ripening fig variety. So that's one where you're not going to get a Braber crop like this, and you're also going to have to wait a really long time, but it's a very beautiful fig. Coming back to knowing your characteristics. Now, if we start looking into some more of the characteristics, the next one is the drooping of the fig. If we have a look at the one above it, you can see it's got a straight neck and the fig is pointing outwards. If we look at the one below, you can see where the neck is and it has started drooping down. all figs, as soon as they start ripening, will start to droop. If we look at the one at the back here, it's pointing sideways, almost upwards. Once this one starts ripening, it is going to start dropping down. That is also a sign that you need to start watching for it. And this is a sign of a more mature fig. This one is very mature, but you can see that neck has bent and it is drooping down. Now, when we start looking at the ripeness of figs and the level of ripeness, the best way to explain this is bottom up. Your fig will start ripening from the very bottom. You'll see there's a little eye over there, and that is where it's going to become the softest first. And as it starts ripening, the sides are going to get softer and softer and softer. And then the telltale sign that your fig is ready is this neck up here. This is going to be soft to touch. As soon as this is soft to touch, you know that fig is perfectly ripe and ready to be picked. And then the last thing, which if you can get the varieties or you get the perfect weather, is at the eye at the bottom. Sometimes you get a little drop of honey, little fig honey. It literally looks like a little drop of water, but if you touch it, it'll be sticky and gooey like a piece of syrup or something sticky. That is the penultimate indicator that your fig is ripe. But just remember, not all figs will do that. So I know all you want me to actually do is to pick this, show you, and taste it. So all you do, bend it over, pretty easy to harvest, take off, and there we have a really well-sized fig. A very mature fig also, if you have a look over here, will ooze a little bit, but it's not going to be dropping sap. If I touch this, turn my finger over, you can see there's none of that white latex, meaning there's actually not a lot of sap flow to this. An underripe fig, if you pick it, will drop latex over here, and you need to leave it for a bit to make sure that you don't ingest any of that white liquid. So this is also a good point to raise. I've been touching this and it has been splitting a bit. This is also a good point to cover, which is splitting of the fruit. Now, it's important to note that splitting is not an indicator of ripeness. That is due to inconsistent watering, and quite often splitting leads to souring of the fig. So if your figs are splitting, check your watering, try and harvest them if you can, because they are not going to continue to ripen. They'll probably just go off and go sour. So don't use splitting as an indicator. Okay, so let's have a look at this. All you do is take a finger on each side of the eye of the fig, squeeze it, pull it open, and there we have a beautiful, beautiful, juicy, juicy fig. So if you squeeze the sides, you can see it just melts, shining in the light. If I have a little taste of that, it's beautiful. Now what you can do is, some people don't like the skins, and you can see this is already pulling away. So you can either pull the fig away like that. This is when they are perfectly ripe. And then you have a piece of skin you can feed to your chickens or whatever. And then here you have the meaty, fleshy part of the fig. If I taste this, it's got a very, very jam-like consistency. This variety has got a savory note to it, so it's not very, very sweet. But that's also characteristics of Braber crops. They're not as tasty and sweet as main crops. So understand that you're going to get a nice big fig, but it's not going to be a really good quality fig. So there you have it. How to harvest perfectly ripe figs every single time. So now that you know how to pick the perfect fig every time, you do not have an excuse to not enjoy figs. I hope you got some value out of this. I hope you are now equipped to make sure that you have the patience and knowledge to wait until your figs are actually ready to be picked. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it out to your communities so we can all enjoy perfectly ripe, sweet, yummy figs. Please also consider subscribing to my journey, where I'm going to continue to just share knowledge and experiences as and when I can. And until next time, enjoy everything these yummy fruits have to offer.